Alright, everyone, let's get straight to it. Today's big topic, the US economy in 2024. You think the US just keeps on defying gravity? Well, it's not that simple. We're diving into this freshly baked, American dream against the backdrop of persistent turmoil and contradictions, where consumer spending is holding the economy together by a thread, even as cracks in the system keep popping up. It's like putting a band-aid on a broken machine. It'll run for a while, but the gears are grinding, and soon enough, it'll collapse if we don't address the root issue. So let's break everything down by the numbers and understand what's really happening under the glossy surface. Surprise, surprise, the US economic resilience in 2024 is primarily a consumer-driven one. Yep, yet again, it's the American consumer blindly shouldering the burden, while the real problems, namely inflation, rising interest rates, and a stagnating job market, go unresolved. By the end of this video, you'll understand just how fragile the picture really is and why the root causes of this ongoing problem will likely lead the economy straight into a mess. Now, before we jump into details, remember to subscribe if you haven't. If you're a long-time listener, settle in. This will be a deep dive into the abyss of the illusion of growth over the past year. According to the latest IMF projections, the US is poised to outshine its G7 peers. Sounds great, right? Well, let's pump the brakes for a moment. If we dig just a little deeper, this top performer status is less impressive than it seems. The US is outperforming other advanced economies mainly because everyone else is doing so poorly. Just a little faster growth here isn't exactly a cause for celebration. Europe's faced by stagnation, China's slow growth blues are deepening, and Japan's battling age-old economic ills. So, yes, on the narrow stats, the US looks stronger, but this isn't based on robust foundations. Just think about it, 2.4% growth in Q3 of 2024 might look stable compared to other G7 countries, but compared to its own historical performance, it's mediocre at best, and there are major warning signs beneath the surface that shouldn't be ignored. Ah yes, inflation. It's the elephant in the room. The Fed, led by Jerome Powell, has preached its new religion of higher for longer interest rates, trying to tame the inflation beast. Let's not forget, inflation peaked at over 9% in mid-2022, and we've since seen some cool off. But here's where the narratives clash. Although inflation fell sharply in 2023, now it has started to stall. That's right, progress is sputtering out. Look at the personal consumption expenditures, PCE, price index, the Fed's preferred inflation gauge, which excluding food and energy, rose by 2.8% in November year-on-year. Yes, down from the 2022 highs, but still a far cry from the Fed's 2% target. And the reality is, inflation isn't going anywhere fast. Energy prices have remained volatile, housing costs stubbornly high, and commodity prices affected by supply chain disruptions combined with geopolitical tensions. And what's Powell hinting at? Yep, no more additional rate cuts beyond the full percentage point they trimmed this year unless more progress is seen in 2025. How high are interest rates now? Hovering close to 7% on 30-year mortgages, folks. That's the highest it's been in decades. And borrowing costs are just one piece of the inflationary puzzle. Let's talk wages. Sure, wage growth has been hovering at a seemingly healthy rate, around 4% according to the latest data, but guess what? When inflation eats up most, if not all, of that wage increase, workers overall aren't better off. Do you feel richer simply because your paycheck is a bit bigger? Nope, because when bread, fuel, rent, and even entertainment costs skyrocket, that wage bump doesn't stretch far. Elevated wage growth is keeping consumer spending alive, no doubt, but that can't keep going forever, folks. Basically, we're putting this all on household consumption, and it's downright unsustainable. Americans' wallets are running dry, pandemic-era savings are a fading memory, and the reliance on loans is growing. Yes, you heard that right, Americans are increasingly using credit to consume. What happens when they have to tighten their belts? Consumer demand plummets. Look at the delinquency rates for credit cards and other lending products. They have risen, people can't keep up with skyrocketing debt. How long can this consumer-led charade continue before households buckle? Not too long, especially with conditions slowly but surely worsening. And here's the landmine, hiring has been decelerating throughout 2024. Dig into the details and you'll see a trending downward curve in job creation. Lower pay increases. Ticking up underemployment. All of this amounts to fewer opportunities for new workers and rising structural unemployment. Now, while the unemployment rate has stabilized around 3.8%, that in itself isn't rosy. This, my viewers, is a critical juncture because it's a clear signal of weakening demand across industries. Fewer job vacancies in particular mean harder times for people to move from one job to another. And if hiring keeps cooling down, yeah, those big OL predictions for continued growth evaporate quickly. Consumers need jobs. Take away the jobs, or just even stunt their growth, and you hit a wall. Capital investment will slow, businesses cut staff, repeat. Let's jump into the ever-afflicted housing and manufacturing sectors. In 2024, housing markets actually look like they found some footing. But don't pop the champagne just yet. It's a dead cat bounce. Mortgage rates have been yo-yoing back to around 7%, and home sales, while stabilizing, are still far below pre-pandemic levels. Builders are offering incentives, like buying down mortgages or paying closing costs, to keep construction from grinding to a halt. That tells you everything. The housing market is suffering from buyer exhaustion, and this kind of artificial leg-up won't last forever. Look at the National Association of Realtors data. Home sales in 2024 were predicted to hit new lows, even worse than 2023, possibly the lowest since 1995. The housing market has a structural problem, and lack of affordability doesn't just vanish. This has domino effects. Fewer buyers mean lower demand for construction, durable goods, and everything tied to the housing sector. Manufacturing. Once the backbone of U.S. prosperity, this sector's 2024 report card was dismal. High borrowing costs, weaker global demand, and trade disruptions have left manufacturers scrambling. Payrolls in durable goods manufacturing. Down, month after month. Firms aren't investing in new products or infrastructure when they can't borrow cheaply, and while export markets abroad are weakening. And let's not forget the Trump card. President-elect Donald Trump is making his big return in 2025. His plans for higher tariffs, immigration policies, tax cuts, they all sound great in his speeches, but the truth? These actions will likely spur inflationary pressures and worsen labor market imbalances. Tariff hikes will disrupt vital supply chains, drive up input costs for manufacturers, and burden consumers with rising prices. Meanwhile, a crackdown on immigration will diminish the labor pool, worsening the job market's precarious balance. Couple this with a weak global economic recovery, especially from places like China and Europe, and what we get is more uncertainty. Capital spending by manufacturers is already rising tepidly as they fear new policy shifts, especially related to foreign trade. Result? A labor market chilled by Trump's policies while inflation, once again, takes center stage, squeezing growth in 2025. It's a double-edged sword. What Trump proposes as pro-growth could cannibalize the very sectors he aims to boost. There you have it, folks. A strong economy built on consumer spending that's being propped up by a mix of wage growth and credit-fueled spending. But looking at the data, we see the real story. Inflation isn't under control despite the Fed's adjustments, job growth is fading, interest rates are punishing key sectors like housing and manufacturing, and 2025 is looming with political uncertainty gripping the markets. You wonder, how does the US keep avoiding the recession everyone keeps predicting? Well, here's the secret: they're not avoiding it, they're delaying it. Delay, 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 at some point, the buck stops. 2024 was the year we started seeing cracks in the system, but 2025 could be the full-blown reckoning. Remember to stay sharp, always question the numbers and read between the lines. What seems good on the surface often hides festering problems underneath. There's only so much longer the American consumer can bear the load, and as that anchor weakens, so too will this mirage of sustained growth. As always, keep your wallets close, your wisdom closer, and stay tuned, because there's much, much more to come. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on the future of the economy. Is it really as stable as some might believe? Or are we walking on thin ice? See you next time.